Hey man, what's up, y'all? What up? What up? What's up? We are back. Today we are back. Okay. Appreciate y'all being here at the show. You don't hit the like on the video on the way in for me. All right, just double tap the screen and subscribe to the channel. All right. Hit those buttons, y'all. Let's see. I want to pull up something I was making last night because I'm thinking about doing something with it. Maybe add some drums to it, but it all depends on if you guys drop the letters in the chat, okay? If we can get that, we can make something happen with this today. Other than that, though, for the show, we might do a separate beat from scratch, okay? But we'll see. Let's go ahead and reflect upon this real quick. Jazz movement. What is this? Oh, okay, yep. All right. Let's check it out. What's up, buddy? Likewise, buddy. Likewise. I appreciate you. I kind of want to add some drums to this. What y'all think, man? Should we put some drums on this mug? If so, drop me some letters in the chat, all right? We'll pick some drum packs. I think it might be tight. Might be tight if we do that. Say shopping for some clothes. I got you. The shopping, but yeah, y'all, we need some letters in the chat to pick drum packs. All right. So put any letter of the alphabet you want to in the chat, and based off that, I will pick a corresponding drum pack. All right. Some of y'all don't know how it goes on the show, but let's say if you put the letter A, I'll pick a drum pack, right? That starts with the letter A. Okay. That's how we do it, man. That's how we do it. Okay, buddy, got WIN. Appreciate that. I like that. Write that down real quick. Let's grab. Let's do it. Window. Window. Let's grab real quick. You got there we go. That'll work. Okay, real quick, we're gonna need some letters here in the chat. Pull this back. Let's see here. Put a hold on. Hold on. Let me actually grab this one instead, because I get this one a lot. So I'll pick that one instead right there. I'm hoping that these are kind of, like more laid back acoustic type drums, because of how we making this song. The way this song's gonna sound. Alright, put a 1 or 2 in the chat, y'all. The first number I see is what I'm picking. A 1 or a 2 in the chat. 1 or a 2. Okay, Bunny got 1. Appreciate that. Yo, how is it that Bunny is the only person typing in chat, man? What y'all doing, dog? Y'all come up in this bitch and fell asleep? Came up in the stream, man, and fell asleep, dog. That's crazy. Y'all do that shit every day. Every day y'all do that shit. Y'all do that shit every day. Okay? That shit crazy. But look, let it be somebody else on the screen, boy. Y'all be typing. Y'all see a female. We got dudes in the chat and shit. Y'all see a female on the screen just sitting there talking, not talking about shit. And you're like, y'all be blowing my mind with that shit, boy. It'll be a whole female just sitting there looking at the camera, just reading the chat, and that's all she doing. And y'all, crazy, man. If y'all don't know how to appreciate music, then y'all keep pushing, straight up. Anyway, let's see here. We need a number between. Let's find it right quick. I'm just tripping off that. That shit crazy, boy. Some of y'all just some goofy ass people. Straight up. Alright, we need a number between 1 and put a 1 or 2 in the chat. A 1 or 2 in the chat. And if you got offended by what I'm saying, then damn right, I'm talking about you. I'm talking about you. If you got offended by what I'm saying, then if the fucking, what they say, if the shoe fits, yeah. If you get offended by what I'm saying, then damn right, I'm talking about you. Most definitely. All right, buddy, got 2. Appreciate that. I got you. So far we got the W, we got some N's, we got some D drum packs, a few O's and E's. We need the letter I, and we need, let me see. Maybe one more E, one more O. Oh yeah, I know it ain't affecting you, buddy. But that's what I'm saying. Some people get mad at the shit I say, or they get mad at the truth in general. And that's because the truth hurts. You see my point? And if it don't apply, then let it fly, right? And then what they say, if it don't apply to you, then don't even let it bother you. But for those of you who it does bother, you better pay attention. You better pay real damn close attention. Straight up. Straight the fuck up. Let's see here. Alright, put a 1 or 2 in the chat, y'all. The first number I see is what I'm picking. What's up, Alessandro? What up, dog? Ciao. Ciao, ciao. Ciao to you. But yeah, 1 or 2, y'all. Pick a trap kit? Nah, that's not pick a trap kit. But yeah, we need a 1 or 2 in the chat, alright? 1 or 2 in the chat. I'm gonna pick maybe 2 more drum packs and that's it. I'll give you guys about 10 more seconds to pick and I'll just pick myself. So we can move it along, you know what I mean? Keep it rolling. Alright, time's up. I'm gonna go ahead and pick these real quick. Let's see. I think that's good for now. Alright, cool. Alright, here we go. There'll be like a lot of effects in this track right here. Audible effects. What's up, Tom, man? What up, bro? Ways to affect the shit out of it. I got you. Save it on the drum packs, alright? Appreciate y'all being here, man. Double tap that screen for me though, alright? If you guys enjoying the show, hit the like on the video, sub to the channel. Hit that button right there if you see it, okay? Subscribe today and get it out your way. Time into after a long ass biology assignment, chill music slaps. Okay, that's what's up. Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it, you know what I mean? Having to do a lot of schoolwork and whatnot can kind of wreck your brain, you know what I mean? Sometimes you need some music like this. Save real quick. There we go. time right now. No Call of Duty zombies theme. You know what I'm saying? Let's see. Golden GT said, "Where'd you get that?" What you mean, the machine? Talking about this? Or you talking about the music? Because if it's the music, it all comes from my mind, you know. But and then obviously my hands, I gotta sit there and put it together. But yeah, the machine's a separate story. You know what I mean? By the way, y'all double tap the screen for me, alright? Let's get the likes up. We've been streaming for almost an hour. Let me see something. We've had about 200 people come through the show. We need to get about really over 20 likes, okay? So every single one of y'all, as soon as you get up in here, man, double tap that screen for me. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel, alright? I really do appreciate y'all. We're we're gonna pause for the calls real quick. All right, let's get the likes up to 12 to continue the show. Okay. All right, man. Let's see. What's up with the likes, dog? We only got 10 likes on the video. We gotta do better than that, okay? We got hella people coming through the show. About 200 of y'all. Damn near about 200. So yeah, let's get the likes up to 12 at this point, all right? We need to get the likes to 12. I'll throw in some bass on this mug and we'll see how it sounds, all right? But double tap that screen for me, y'all. I see some of y'all just got here. I appreciate y'all coming through. Most definitely do. But yeah, like the video, man. Come on. I'm gonna give it some more time. Let's see right quick. Y'all ain't double tapping the screen, man. I don't know what y'all doing. Y'all better get the lights up, dog. Y'all want to keep the show going. Let's get the lights up. But I appreciate that, Bunny. Shout out to you. Shout out to you, Bunny. Appreciate that. Alright, for now, let me find a bass to add real quick. Something that might fit pretty good. Okay, we got 6 different instruments on here right now. See something. Trying to think of a bass, like a bass line, you know? There's so many different things I could do here. So many freaking different things I could do with this. Buddy said, now let's throw down a track like a mug. Trying to figure out this bass, man. I might have more than one like bass pattern, you know? Check out while I was playing, because there's one part that I played I kind of liked. It sounded kind of good to me. Let's see, dog, real quick. This is tricky, man. Making music is a very tricky thing. like trying to close. Exactly. Especially when you have so many different options. You know, that's what makes it real tough when you have an abundance of options. You know, it's hard to settle on one thing. You know what I mean? It's hard to settle on one thing. But let me see here. Might put that at the end. I'm gonna have more than one little pattern, you know, more than one bass pattern. What's up, Jake? Welcome back, man. man. We're gonna leave that one there for now. I can always come back another day, do more stuff with it. Okay. That's the music making process, man. That's how it be going. So let's see. We've been streaming for 85 minutes and 25 seconds. That's crazy. Those are my numbers right there, man. But look, we gotta get the likes up on the video. The likes are low as hell. We've been here for about an hour and a half. All right. We've had almost 300 people come by the show, dog. We need to get to like 30 likes. Okay. 30. At least 30 likes, y'all. At least 30 likes, okay? I'll give y'all a minute, man. Double tap that screen for me, all right? Man, that track has like a very ocean vibe to it, you know. Kind of like a jazz ocean, jazz ocean vibe. But I see you, Blaine. Appreciate you being here still. Let's see. Let's play some of this. I might add something to this. I think today we'll just do like a production stream. You know, play through some few tracks. Maybe add some stuff to that. You know. But yeah, y'all double tap the screen for me. All right, like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you see that button right there, hit it today and get it out your way, okay? 273, that's crazy. 273 people. That's what's up, though. That's what's up, though, man. That's what's up.